Welcome to the May 23rd meeting of the Wichita Area Crime. Excuse me. That was last meeting I was at, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. Was off to a good start. Could we please have opening announcements?
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. For those in attendance, copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and planning department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representatives to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please share your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the room. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. All speakers at the podium, please remove your face mask before speaking into the microphone. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the commission and the board will be retained by the secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking, but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please provide your contact information to the planning department. The Planning Commission and the board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on all the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as courteous and concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available from the planning staff. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to the district court.
Thank you. Could we have a roll call now, please?
Yes, sir. Duel.
Here.
Meter. McKay.
Here.
Fry.
Present.
Bill Johnson.
Here.
Blick.
Here.
Nix is absent. Kluntz. Warren.
Here.
Joe Johnson is absent. Miles is absent. Zimbelman. Aldrich. Williams Bay. Sir, I show 3 members absent, 11 members present.
Thank you. Next, we have no BZA cases today. So the next item is the approval of the prior MAPC minutes, and the minutes for May 9th are being deferred to June 13th. So now we'll move on into the cases and see what we can take on consent. The first case is sub 2024-00016. This was deferred from 5/2/24. It's a one-step final plat, basically located at West 103rd Street and 247th Street West. Is there anyone on the commission that wants to hear this case? Is there anyone present from the public that would like to hear this case? Not, we'll take this case on consent. Next case, item 2.2 is sub 224-00017. This was deferred from May 2nd. One-step final plat, located at 263rd Street West and 103rd Street South. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear this case? We'll take that case on consent. Item 2.3 is sub 2024-00021. Located on West 31st Street South and South Maze Road. Is there anyone on the commission that wants to hear this case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear this case? No, we'll take it on consent. Next item, 2.4 is sub 2024-00022. One-step final plat at 47th Street South and South 295th Street West. Is there anyone on the commission that would?
This case is deferred.
Oh, okay, excuse me. That's right. Need to read the red ink. So it's deferred. Next case is 2.5, 2024-00023. And it's one-step final plat located near West Kellogg Drive and 135th Street West. Anyone on the commission want to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public here that would like to hear that case? We'll take that on consent.
Motion to approve
We have one
2.1.
more. We had a late entry, item 2.6. Sub 2023-00049. This is located, it was deferred from May 9th, 2024 on the 37th Street North and 247th Street West. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear that case? Do we have anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? Okay, we will hear that case. Now we'll have a motion on the,
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve on consent items 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.5.
Second.
okay, we have a motion from Mr. Fry, second from Mr. Williams-Bay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next, we have vacation items, 3.1, vacation 2024-00019. And this was deferred from May the 9th. And is generally located on West 9th Street and North Robin Road. Is there anyone on the commission that would like to hear this case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear this case? Take that one on consent. Next, 3.2, vacation 2024-00022. Located on East Central Avenue and North Armor Drive. Does anyone on the commission want to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? We'll take that on consent. 3.3, vacation 2024-00024, located East 21st Street and 1909 North Red Brush Street. Does anyone on the council want to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? We'll take that one on consent. Next is item 3.4, vacation 2024-00025, located on South 151st Street West and West Maple. Is there anyone on the commission that wants to hear that case? Anyone present from the public want to hear that case? We will hear that case. We have a motion to approve the vacation items.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve items 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3 on consent.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Fry, second by Mr. Blick. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, now we'll move into public hearings. Or do we go back and take these cases first?
I'd recommend to go through the list to find out which items of the public
Okay.
hearings can be taken on consent.
Okay, so the first item on public hearings is 4.1. It's con 2024-00020, located on East Tyler Road and 21st Street North. Anyone from the commission want to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that wants to hear that case? We will hear that case.
Mr. Chairman, I will have to abstain on that one when it comes time for a vote.
Right. Duly noted. Fry will abstain. Item 4.2 is a PUD zone change at South Maze Road and West Pawnee. Is there anyone on the commission that wants to hear that case? Is there anyone from the public that would like to hear that case? We'll take that one on consent.
Motion to approve 4.2.
Okay, we have a motion for Mr. Blick and a second for Mr. Warren. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go back to subdivision committee recommendations. We have 2.6, according to my records, that we're going to hear. Go ahead, staff.
Good afternoon, Greg Sharon, planning staff, present the Indian Ridge at Andale second edition. Next screen, please. This is unplatted property in the county, zoned RR rural residential. If you remember, a few months ago, this came in as larger lot size or smaller lot size, and the applicant tried to get it rezoned, had some trouble getting it rezoned, so they decided to replat it to conform with the 2 acre lot standards of the rural residential district. So that's what this plat is presented to you today is for. Next screen, please. And then next screen. So this is a revised plat, and it was continued from last month's meeting because there were some issues with the drainage plan. And I got have gotten confirmation from the county stormwater manager that that drainage plan has been approved and it meets all the county standards for stormwater drainage. So I will go through the staff comments. The staff report that you have in front of you in your packet. All the items in this report have been addressed and approved, and that is what has been presented to you as an updated plat. So most of the items that were needed to be corrected were just platter's texts. So those were included and revised. Like I said, for item G, the county stormwater approved the drainage plan. The detention pond has been located in a drainage easement. And the floodplain is located in a drainage reserve. Other things that have been revised was county public works required a temporary cul-de-sac at the end of Eastern Stubb Street. This is item K that has been included on the plat. And also increasing the width of the shared drive access opening to 40 feet. That has been revised. Street stubs and everything else has been approved and addressed. One thing I should note, item X, GIS to approve of street names. I did get confirmation from them today that they're maybe looking at different street names because it doesn't meet the city's streets naming standards. So that'd probably be the last change that would be needed for the subdivision plat, is to revise the street names to comply with the the county street standard naming. So questions, comments?
Are there any questions of staff from the commission? Yes, Scott.
Scott Wadle, Planning Director, just a clarification question for staff. Greg, what time did you get the revised, when did you get the revised plat on this one, the graphic you handed out?
I got it this morning, probably 9:30 would be my guess.
Okay, can you also identify what was changed on that?
Oh, okay, I'll try to. Yeah, some of the platter's text was changed. I could just go through item C, that was changed and approved in the staff report. Item D, platter's text was changed and approved. Item E, just some graphics that was approved. Item G, the stormwater, all the stormwater drainage, retention pond within easements, that has all been approved and changed on this plat. Item J, that has been approved with the opening of the access opening increased to 40 feet per item K. The access controls, the width of the shared drive opening, 40 feet, that was changed on this plat. The temporary cul-de-sac was added under item K. Item N just has to do with the cul-de-sac, which they provided. And item O, just showing zoning on adjacent on the track on the preliminary plat, that was approved and included on the revised preliminary plat. The county surveyor comments, item P, about access controls, dimensioning, those have been revised and approved. And item E, platter's text about compliance with restrictions and applicable restrictions, that has been changed and approved. Item W, platters text added about drainage reserved, that was approved. Item Z, appropriate signatures changed, that has been approved and changed on the revised.
And Greg, I know you're quite a ways through this. I was trying to get a sense of what has changed since the last time you saw this till when you got the version today at 9:30. If there's like what elements have all the things that you have listed changed with that receipt of the 9:30 version?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get a sense of the scope.
yeah, like I said, all the comments in the staff report has been addressed and revised on the plat that you have in front of you.
Mr. Aldridge.
Which is prompting me to ask a question. Does this need to go back to subdivision because of all this, these several changes that were made?
I mean, that would probably be for the legal to discuss, but most of the changes were just platters text changes, which is pretty typical changes to be made between subdivision and plan commission. The only major change that has occurred on the plat itself was the turnaround cul-de-sac. So everything else were just minor text changes to the plat. So
Were any of the changes different from what was considered and discussed at subdivision?
no, because all the requests that were made in the staff report were made at the subdivision committee.
Then in response to Mr. Aldridge's questions, I would say that we do not need to defer it back to the subdivision.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff from the commission? Yeah, Mr. McKay.
I'd like to go to number DD. I guess I'm not. Section 8 or Article 8. How are we going to accomplish that? Or does Section 8 let you bypass it?
Those are guarantees that the developer will need to present to Public Works. So that will be all handled in the construction phase of the project. So they will submit Public Works documents to Public Works to make sure all the fire protection is in place.
The reason why I asked the question is that handling, I guess, is that hampering the subdivision being done? Because if you don't have public water, how are you gonna provide hydrants and stuff? I'm just, I saw it the first time we saw it.
Yeah, it's my understanding that the fire protection in the county is all done through water that is on the trucks and not on hydrants. That is my understanding. If I'm wrong and someone is here from Public Works that knows that, they could correct me, but that is my understanding, that the fire protection in the county doesn't come from public water lines. It comes from the trucks themselves.
Then should fire hydrants be taken out of that parentheses example?
Yeah, that's just a standard comment that we put on all the staff reports just to make sure that it is.
That still didn't answer my question. And I'm not just doing it for this people. I'm talking about some future development. if you're gonna use that as an example and they can't provide it, is that hindering the development person?
Well, yeah, Scott, maybe.
Yeah, Greg, I'll try and help you out on this one, because if this is standard language that we have in there, it says the applicant shall install or guarantee the installation of all utilities, which doesn't really apply to this conversation, and facilities that are applicable and described in Article 8 of the subdivision regulations. And then, as Mr. McKay is indicating, it's got an example here of water service and fire hydrants required by Article 8 for fire protection shall be as per the direction and approval of the fire code official. Now, I think the question that we've heard from Mr. McKay is it appropriate, and should the words fire hydrants as required by Article 8 for fire protection be included in this one? And if this is a standard and this is out in the county and there's not the possibility of having fire hydrants there, it seems like, from my perspective, it seems like that's some language that could be struck out of that item for this particular case. Greg, what do you say? Think about that?
Yeah, we can strike that from the hydrant.
We're gonna strike it. Should we quit using that as an example, I guess?
I think that would be something to discuss. Rather than doing it right now, I'd say let's take it to the subdivision committee and we can talk about that language there.
They don't have.
Okay, duly noted, Mr. Bill Johnson.
Okay.
Even if they bring real water in, real water don't set fire hydrants either, so, yeah. So I think it needs to be struck.
So are we okay with striking that from the requirements?
Staff have indicated that we're okay with striking the reference to fire hydrants out.
Okay. Any other discussion from the commission? Questions? Okay, well, thank you. Now we'll call on the agent or applicant to speak, and you'll have 10 minutes. Please give us your name and address.
Hello, Ryan McCune with ASM Engineering, 221 East Commerce Street, Andover. I'm the agent for the applicant. Basically, as Greg said, we've addressed all the comments for the last meeting. Drainage plan's been approved. Sewer, I'll bring that up again. We're going with alternative sewer system. They have done a test well on site back in December. Drilled down to about 80 feet. I think they hit water around 30. It came back up to about 24 feet. They're getting about 25 gallons per minute out of that well. They ran it for 2 hours. So if there's any other questions, I'm here to answer.
Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Aldridge.
Yep, sir. Do you support all of staff recommendations and comments as given?
Yes.
And since you mentioned a test well, how will you protect the future residents to assure the quantity and quality of water?
I don't know if anybody can really ensure,
Well, I guess what I'm referring to, there gonna be any type of deed restrictions or anything?
currently, no. I mean, it's in the county, it's in the country. We have wells, so, and they have spoken with a couple different water resources the owner has, and they've all confirmed that they believe from their expert opinion that there's plenty of water out in this area, so.
Well, I don't think I'm allowed to get too deeply in the water conversation here, but my concern is that building a subdivision in a county with a risk of quality of water, I think that there needs to be, I'd like to see something that helps protect the future residents where they're not purchasing property in a house and you find out that there's not enough adequate water supply or quality of the water.
Okay. I guess my question is, has this been a requirement for other subdivisions or what? Why is, I guess the
Well, the
request?
reason why is because there is an issue whether or not there is adequate water out there, but I better stymie my comments before I get in trouble.
Scott?
I can provide some context to this one, and this has come up at the subdivision committee meetings. So the state looks at and provides the authority for subdivisions to take place and provides the authority for local governments to consider zoning cases. I bring up both of those because how subdivision cases are considered and platting is pretty different from the way that zoning cases are considered. And in the subdivision process, the local government set out the subdivision regulations, which essentially are a list of things that must be met in order for a property to be platted. And so the state, it's more of a property rights thing in that if you check all of those boxes, you are granted the right to plat your property. Now, in that situation, zoning is a little bit more of a, what's the impact going to be to the neighbors? There's the golden factors that we review. There's kind of a balancing factor there. Subdivision regulations are very much about, do you meet the regulations? Do you meet the requirements? If so, you have the ability to plat. There is one caveat that has come up before, which is safety, that has come up on city plats. Now, to the discussion of water, there was a time when the subdivision regulations did include availability of water as one of those things that needed to be reviewed and included and checked off on. That was eliminated. I don't know the specific timeline. We're doing some more research on that, but some years ago. And so at this point, water availability is not one of those boxes that needs to be checked.
Mr. McKay?
What, I'm not trying to pick sides here, no. Who shoulders the liability? In other words, if this developer says you're gonna sell this lot to 3 or 4 different people and hope they all fill in, and all of a sudden the water, we've got a semi-drought going on now, who shoulders the liability, the developer or the person who bought the land from him? I mean, how do they represent to the buyer, the ultimate buyer of this property?
I think a part of that could be due diligence on the buyer and would ultimately be something that could be worked out between the two parties, whether individually or in court. In this case, sure, someone can plat the property. They can even pull a building permit, but do they have the water availability to be able to get the occupancy permit for that is a question that I believe will come up.
Seems it would be pretty difficult to confine that to comments in a deed or anything, because as it's been said, nobody can tell what's going to happen in the future. But folks ought to be made aware the water has been an issue. Is there any other questions from the commission of the agent? Not, thank you, sir. Is there anyone from the public? Are you finished? Did you have any other comments?
Yeah, I just kind of
Sure,
wanted
excuse
to
me.
quickly brief on that water. The report and the recommendation from Winiger Drilling, I think, was submitted to the county or back on December of 2023. So, and it shows a number of test wells in there, all having adequate water. So, and I'm assuming everybody had a copy of that or not, but if not, we can provide that again. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Blick?
Lot 15, where's the entrance gonna be? Is that on 37th? And how close is that to the tribal street on lot 15?
So, lot
It's
15.
at the very top.
So, and your question is what? I'm sorry.
Where's the entrance gonna be?
That'll be off 37th Street.
37th, is it gonna be in center? Is it one side or the other? You know, right now?
I don't know if there's any access control that I'd have to look at that. I don't have that with me currently.
I noticed on the other side it showed it, but I just didn't see it there. So cool. Thank you.
Sure.
There's no other questions from the commission. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak on this? please come forward and give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Jared Schneider, 3400 North 247th Street. As we've talked, I'll just touch briefly. Water remains a big concern. Homeowners irrigating those lawns are going to use twice the amount of water that I would if I had an irrigation pivot there. The maximum allotted water given to me by the state of Kansas for ag use. If this is the case and there's so much water there, we should have no problem putting an irrigation system, but the state water district sees that there's not. So that explains why there's no irrigation in that area. No additional testing has been done on that well drilled on the property since December 8th. The state requires us to run a 72-hour hard load test with metering wells all around our wells to show how it affects the water table. Mr. Winiger's testimony seems a little bit on conflict of interest, being that he drilled everyone but one well on Indian Ridge Phase 1. And so he seems to be going to drill every well on this one. Stormwater drainage still shows that the water running off, entering into the middle of this subdivision on the south side of the property off of our 2 terraces, still does not have any kind of structures or anything on it showing there's 8 foot of drop in less than a block on lot 9. So obviously there's going to be erosion there. So who's going to be entitled to that? So we're just trying to keep our property from washing. The 2 existing ponds that were built in the 90 on the property were never permitted, therefore are illegal. The DWR has emailed Sedgwick County Stormwater and the concerns have gone unheard. I believe a study from a third party should be done on this property to show the impacts that they have created on the wildlife, and people should be held accountable for these, not just bury it under a new pond. I would like to see the drainage easement in a reserve. We have Reserve A here in the bottom here. Why can't we put this all in a reserve? I would like to see that so I'm not having to contest with 9 people against my property line when we have a discrepancy on something going on that easement. That would just allow for a lot easier on the adjacent property owners. I'm not just concerned about the next year or 2 with this. I'm lifelonger here. I'm concerned about what's going on in the next 20 years. I'm quite younger than a lot of people in here. I'm going to be around on that piece of property for a long time. A lot longer than maybe some of you are going to be here, a lot longer than the developers are going to be here. So I want to make sure it's all in black and white. Mr. Joe Johnson made a comment on one of the first meetings that I attended here, and he told 2 individuals that when a developer did something different, he said, well, maybe you should have got it in writing. That's what I'm asking for. I want everything in writing. I want everything correct on this and not given to us at the day before. This meeting wasn't even on the agenda today. We had to call in and make sure it was on the agenda. I keep, wasting time here. I don't get paid to be here. So I would just like that everything would be done correctly and not just hasty-wasty.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this?
I have
Oh,
a
excuse me,
question.
we have a question.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Williams,
What's your
but
property in relationship to the development?
The direct south right there. So directly south of that.
You own that, all of that?
No,
along the
I
whole
own
side?
the 20 acres. So my employer co-own this whole 80 acres here. So
Okay, thank you.
is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this? Please give us your name and address and you will have 3 minutes.
My name's Doug Wager. I live at 24327 West 37th Street North, the notch in this. I currently have water flow issues at one of my wells. We purchased the property in 2015 with no issues, and it wasn't until 2021 when the Indian Ridge 1 development went in a half-mile northwest of us that we started losing pressure and surging. When the original development was proposed, there was a request made by a committee member for test wells and additional water studies to be done by an engineer to verify groundwater availability. To my knowledge, the only test well that's drilled is the one that was mentioned, and it's 350 feet from a pond and 600 feet from a creek. My question is, what if the east end of this development doesn't have water? Nobody's done any testing. This is the top of the hill. Water drains both ways. But so in my research, I reached out to Jeff Latterman Division of Water Resources, at Stafford Field Office, and he said the area is what he considers limited saturation thickness area and recommended limited saturated thickness study to be completed at a pump test done by a licensed geologist, which would give us the idea of the aquifer parameters and analysis of the drawdown 1,320 feet from the well. I spoke with David Barfield, who was the former chief engineer at the Kansas Division of Water Service, and he said that my address is in an area of very limited water and recommends that the development is required to hire an engineer or hydrologist to demonstrate their use will not interfere with the current residents' use before it's approved. And then I also reached out to Tim Bose with GMD2, who gave the report and said that he recommended further evaluation, including test drilling and extended well test pumping. The experts that I asked regarding water availability in the area all recommended additional discoveries to be done to show that this addition will not impair our existing water use. If water needs for the development can't be met by available groundwater, then the water should be supplied by the rural water district to minimize the impact on the surrounding neighborhood. I guess what I'm really asking for is that, you know, the subdivision, we got pushed through because we were approving the plats. And if you guys are the ones that are approving whether or not this development happens or not, you know, just looking for this process to be done in the right way. It doesn't have to get shut down. I'm just asking that the additional discoveries are done before we push this thing through and approve it.
Thank you for your comments. Any questions from the commission? Mr. Zimmelman.
How many wells do you have on your property?
So for my 5 acres, I have to have 4 wells. I've got one that's drilled too deep that has too much sulfate in it. So I know there's a limited amount. I can't just keep going deeper. But I've got 3 wells that I use to run my hydrants, fill my tanks and the house.
How the other 3 wells?
Well, so I haven't measured any of them. The one that's too deep is at 86 feet, I believe. And I was told when we bought the place that the other ones were around 80. The one that's failing is actually, it's a shallower well. I measured it to see what was going on, and it was at 70 feet.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak on this case? Please give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Mark Vaughn. I live at 24220 West 37th Street, which would be this property right here. We purchased that land in '92, and before I purchased the property, I talked to farmers in the area, and one of the things they said was you got to watch out because there's limited water in that area. So part of our conditions for buying the property is we drilled a test well first. So that's kind of heightened my awareness that, you know, there's not unlimited water in this area. Another thing, during the rezoning hearings, a representative from Winnegar Drilling came up and talked about the test wells. They've got the 1 test well in here. The other 2 were, I believe, 2.5 miles further north, up where water is readily available. Those are the nearest test wells that I know about. To me, there's been so much development here lately. We need to start monitoring the water level, and that should not be that difficult to do. We can monitor the existing wells and see if they're being drawn down. If they're being drawn down, we know we're going too fast. If not, then we know we got plenty of water. So, any questions?
Thank you for your comments, sir. Is there anyone else from public that would like to speak on this case? Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. And please confine your comments to items that have not already been covered.
My name is Julie Wager. I live at 24327 West 37th Street North. The property that's the little cutout in the middle of this development. So currently, everybody around us is on 5+ acres, and this is what the lots look like. 5 acres across from us, we're 5 acres. All the rest of this is farmland, and this is what it's going to be turned into, with 26 houses all around us and nobody else on 2 acres. You can't find 2 acres until you go to town. And Indian Ridge 1 that they already previously developed, we can't even see from our property. That we're rural and farm land and not high density at all. And this will multiply the amount of people in 1 square mile by 5 times in just these 75 acres. Also, over by the ponds that are not supposed to be there, there is a burnt house that was pushed into a pit silo, and that probably needs to be inspected for asbestos before we start putting more ponds and wells in that area. The elementary schools in the area are already full. The state recommends a 13-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio. St. Mark's has 17-to-1 currently, and they're already out of square footage to add any more room to the schools. I'm, like my husband, not 100% asking for this to completely stop, but I'm asking for everyone to stop and consider the people that are already there and what this is going to do to us and the negative effects. And, you know, maybe we consider 5-acre lots, and so that it fits into the surrounding area and doesn't completely ruin those of us that are there, our way of life already. That's all.
Any questions of the speaker from the commission? Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone else from the public here that would like to speak on this? Again, please confine your comments to new information. You'll have 3 minutes. Please give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sheila Hertel. I'm at 124 West 37th, there north. I'm right across the street, right next to Mark. So I'm right here. My concern here is I have a mini farm. I've got many horses and many donkeys, and my pasture comes out to 37th Street. Now, in one of the subdivisions, the agent asked for a waiver for the streets there to be not to be paved, not required. Well, I think if you don't require that, then this development is going to use 37th Street, which already has a lot of traffic with the kids with the UTVs, ATVs, and I feel this would be a safety hazard. If they don't pave their streets there to make them use their streets instead of using 37th Street all along. Also, you know, my concern is with the fire safety bit. You know, you have that many houses and you're having trucks come in with water. I know Colwich is one of the responders. They're all volunteers. If they don't have volunteers to respond, how many houses are going to go, you know, if they catch fire? I think the safety of my animals and our property there alone is a big concern of mine, as well as water. You know, and like Doug and Julie said, even if we acquire a 5-acre land, just like rest of us, instead of these 2 acres, that would narrow down some of the issues that we may have in the future. Any questions?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Have another speaker. Please give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes. And confine your comments, if you can, to items that haven't already been covered.
Hey, I'm Laura Reichard. I live at 24630 West 37th Street North, so I'm kind of right here. And I guess I'm coming from the point of public health and safety. So when we moved to our house a little over 20 years ago, there were 2 wells working. Both of them off the charts hard, probably should have never been hooked up. We've since drilled 3 more. We got 1 out of the 3 that was usable. So maybe with me, it's not so much quality as not so much quantity as quality. Off the charts hard, off the charts high in sulfates. So, yeah. Also, I'm probably one of the few people that's actually in the flood zone, so I have some concerns with that. You know, if the engineers do the thing, then I have to rely on that. But I guess being someone that may not get to live there a lot of years from now, I may find myself just needing to go somewhere else. But it is I'm unfamiliar with this process, and it's a little bit horrifying to me that I could buy a lot and assume that it's good and safe to build a house on, and then I find out that there's water issues there and I can't get water. So it's just a little concerning to me, this whole process. I would hope in the interest of public health and safety that somehow the water situation is dug into a little bit more. And I guess between all of the neighbors, and we've probably got dozens of water studies that say there's some problems with it. I don't understand how one well that's working could negate all that other stuff. So just my unfamiliarity with the process, I'm a little confused about it. So any questions?
Mr. Blick.
I have a question. On the other side, the west side of 247, is that Tecalscan Creek where it starts at? And then it goes all the way down to Wichita?
I mean, that's, yeah, you see, if you see that creek, yeah, that's,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's Tecalscan. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals from the public that would like to speak on this? Please give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Raymond Roser. I live at 24-310 West 37th, right there. I'd like to talk about high density development and ask a question. It's never been clarified what is high density development in a rural setting. Can anyone here answer that question?
Scott.
Well, I think the answer there is it depends. In a rural setting, generally what we see rural residential zoning, which by itself does allow for residential developments with a minimum lot size of 2 acres. In SF20, it allows you to go down to 20,000, which generally depends on the septic system or wastewater system that they're using, will get you down to 1 acre. So inherently by the zoning districts that are available in the unincorporated county at this time, those are the density levels that are generally allowed.
Okay. So if this is outside the economic development zone that the planning board has drawn for the projected growth of the city, this is 10 miles outside of it.
In the zoning code does not have an agricultural zoning district. We have a rural residential zoning district. So therefore, we can see subdivisions with a size of 2 acres platted and developed throughout the county.
Okay. Well, the current plat that none of us were provided, which is the plat that you're trying to approve today, none of us have seen it with its changes. The one I looked at previously, there were lot sizes that were less than 200-foot width. Is that allowable?
I'll defer to Greg on that one after you're done with your comments. Perhaps we can have him come up and address that.
Well, that's the only comments I had is about the high density development in a rural area and the water issues. We've covered all that, but that's all I have.
Yes. Greg, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, all the lot widths on this subdivision meets the 200-foot requirement. It meets the subdivision code for lot frontage, correct?
Mr. Aldridge.
If that's the case, then why do we need a waiver?
Oh, the waiver is for the lot width to depth ratio and not the width of the frontage. So all the frontage meets the 200-foot minimum requirement. The waiver is from, because what is it? Lot 3 is more than 2.5 times the width of the lot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else from the public that would like to speak on this case? If not, we will call the agent back up for rebuttal and you will have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Just have a few quick comments. Down here on the south side, we worked with the county and the county had us actually widen that ditch to 15-foot width for maintenance, for really just to ease your mind on the drainage there. So I know the county's been looking at the drainage very detailed, and we've really worked back and forth with the county on addressing all the drainage issues and all the concerns. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. Also, the applicants had spoken with the school district and Tim Hayden, and they acknowledged the needing for growth, and they were in support of this, according to the applicants. And then I guess I just kind of wanted to refer back to the county council far as the water issue, reference to the planning or to the plat approval. If we could kind of readdress that again.
Can you repeat that question, please?
Basically just is there any water requirements for the plat approval? Because I think that was brought up in the last meeting, and so I just kind of wanted to.
The subdivision regs do not have any water requirements.
Okay. So, and I know the owners, like I said, they have talked to everybody on this water. There's obviously a lot of concern here, and they don't want to move forward with the development if they don't feel that there's enough water out there. But with the resources they've done and the experts they've talked to, they feel that there is. So, is there any other additional questions for me?
Mr. Aldrich.
This is probably way out of left field, but would you consider 5-acre lots?
So originally the owners wanted to go after 1-acre lots, and that's when they basically got turned down. So they went back to how it was currently zoned. I can't speak for the applicants, but I would say probably not. It just wouldn't make it. I would say no, but.
Okay, also, just for the record, you're the one that brought up the water issue again on this. So then asking legal whether it was required, you're playing both sides of the fence.
I'm sorry.
I don't have any further comments.
Okay.
Any other questions from the commission? Mr. Blick.
How do you feel on a possible deferral to do an extended water study and to ease the mind of adjacent property owners? I mean, you're not required, but I'm just asking, how do you feel about that?
If we could get approval, if it's requiring 2 additional test wells, but if we could get approval based on those 2 additional test wells today, I think the applicants might be open to that. But considering full approval upon confirmation of those additional test wells.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We'll bring it back to the commission now for discussion and action. What's your pleasure? Sounds like any motion that might be made should include possibility of 2 additional test wells and also striking anything regarding fire hydrants from item DD. Mr. Bill Johnson.
Move to approve. Voted to by striking the fire hydrants and the fire requirements since it's not in the county regulations. So I move to approve our staff comments.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Bill Johnson and a second by Mr. Warren. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Better call for a voice vote.
Yes, sir. Just one moment. Okay, this is a vote on the motion to approve with the addition of striking the reference to fire hydrants. Dual,
Did that not include 2 additional test wells? Okay. No.
Mater. Kay,
No.
Fry,
Yay.
Bill Johnson,
Yes.
Blick,
No.
Nix is absent. Clontz,
No.
Warren,
Aye.
Joe Johnson is absent. Miles is absent. Zimbelman. Aldrich,
No.
Williams Bay,
No.
motion fails 4-7.
I'd like to make a comment. Because we've had plants like this in the past and we requested them to do the well digging and stuff like that to make sure that there's plenty of water there. And they've done it without any resistance whatsoever. A while ago, this gentleman said that he would do that if we would guarantee him approval. I don't know how to react to that, I guess. Been in the development business for a little while in my lifetime. I don't know how to react to that.
Any other discussion? Okay, motion fails. We will move on to the next case to consider, and that is vacation item. Excuse me, go ahead, Mr. Williams.
I guess,
Oh,
we have, give us a statement of a reason why we voted the way that we did. We give any indication to the applicant what it would take.
Just a moment.
the results. That's the reason why we did it. The only thing requires been asked, guys, since we started this. This is a questionable area. Well, we've killed it. We've killed it for 12 months. And the shortfall, I think, was that there wasn't adequate water testing done out there.
The regulations are unclear regarding whether you need to make a statement of explanation for the denial, but we believe that to err on the side of caution and to make sure that we have a defensible position, I would encourage you to make a statement for the reasons for denial.
Who made the motion? Well, we haven't had a motion.
Well, not to make a motion to deny, but to explain the reasons for the votes to not approve the application.
Even if there wasn't an alternative motion for denial?
That's why I said that the rules are unclear, and I'm just trying to caution you to go ahead and encourage you to make an explanation. I'm not saying it's required, but I would encourage you to make an explanation so that there's a defensible position if this comes up for litigation.
So with the discussion that was and and comments that were made by the board, will that work or not?
You could certainly incorporate the discussion as the rationale for your vote.
The motion was to approve, subject to those conditions, and I think if there were any discussion on why that motion was made, it would be for approval. Nobody made a motion to deny, but the case was denied, so I don't know who we would look to make the statement that you're suggesting. Scott?
If I could, just for context, so in this situation, we've got a motion to approve failed. If there's not another motion that is approved, then what happens is that this item fails. I think everyone has that understanding. I want to make sure that folks in the room have that same understanding. Now, the question has come up about should any additional factors or evidence be cited by members of the commission. That is typically something that is needed for a zoning case in order to ensure that it can stand a contest should it go to court. In this case, because it's not that there was a motion to deny it, it's just that a motion to approve did not pass. Legal counsel has advised that yes, if folks who voted to deny, not to approve the motion to approve it, if they want to provide any additional comments or evidence that they think would help with this to make it more defensible, they're more than welcome to, but you are not required to.
And I would add that this is going to go before the BOCC, and your explanations will assist the BOCC in making its final determination.
Well, the time has passed to make another motion at this point. Somebody could have made a substitute motion to approve subject to, for instance, drilling 2 more wells. We didn't do that. Now, there's no chance to make another motion on this case, I don't believe, is there?
My apologies. We've just confirmed that this, if it's denied, it will not go before the BOCC.
You are able to move on to the next item if you wish. Members are also able to make comments until you do so.
But they couldn't make another motion on this case because we've already made a motion that failed.
You could take up another motion until you move on to another item.
Okay. Is anybody interested in making another motion on this case to approve or deny subject to anything that was not covered in the original motion? Or would you like to make any comments for the record regarding this case? I don't see any desire for that, so I suggest that we move on. The next item is 3.4 vacation item 00025.
Good afternoon, Planning Commission. Philip Zevenbergen with planning staff. Vacation 2425 is a vacation request to reduce a platted 30-foot front setback down to 20 feet. So it'd be a reduction of 10 feet. It's located on lot 17, block 2 of the Miles West Wind Lakes Estates Edition. The property is addressed at 355 South Windrose Lake Drive. Property is zoned single-family residential, is developed with a single-family home, and the applicant is proposing to construct a detached garage should the vacation be approved. The detached garage is proposed to be 30 foot by 40 foot, and it would be north of the existing house. If you want to go to the aerial image, please. Had this property not been platted with a front setback, the SF5 district would have a 25-foot front zoning setback. Within the zoning code for zoning setbacks, it does provide the planning director and the zoning administrator the authority to administratively reduce those by 20%. that would equate down to a 20-foot setback. So the reality is a reduction from a 30-foot setback to a 20-foot setback would not be outside of the realm of a possible administrative adjustment had it been a zoning setback of 25 feet. Part of the reason of this request is along the north property line is 8 feet of a 16-foot utility easement. Prior to submitting the application, the applicant has worked with planning staff who reached out to AT&T, who has equipment and plans for future installment of additional equipment in the easement. And he essentially said that they would not be in favor of any reduction of the easement, which would have allowed the building to be set back farther away from the street and a possible smaller reduction of the front setback or no reduction of the front setback. So with the inability to reduce the easement in the rear, meant that the request had to be for a larger reduction of the front setback. One of the things that staff looked at in this is that the applicant's property is unique compared to other properties within the subdivision in that it's triangular in shape, right along the corner, which does not necessarily provide as much buildable area within the existing setbacks like the neighboring properties enjoy and have the ability to build additional things on their property within setbacks. Wichita Public Works and Utilities, Wichita Fire and Traffic Engineering, as well as Stormwater do not have any objection to the reduction in the setback. Kansas Gas and AT&T and Cox do not object to it either, as long as the setback does not encroach, or as long as the building or any of the rear utility easement is not reduced, which again, it's not, it's just the setback. Evergy had comments that are in your staff report regarding the location of service lines and where they go underneath the street, and they would just need to work with Evergy regarding the location of those service lines and possible relocation of service lines, which would be at the applicant's expense, depending on where the building is placed and where those service lines are, and not placing a building over top of service lines that not only serve their property, but properties nearby. There's been public comment regarding this case. We have individuals here who wish to speak. Also in your packet is an extensive list of the comments that I've received via email that I provided to you in the staff report ahead of time for your consideration. And with that, I can stand for, or the subdivision committee recommended approval 4-2. One thing I wanted to note, I brought it up at subdivision, is unlike zoning cases that have a protest period following the planning commission, vacation items, much like subdivision items, are not afforded that opportunity. And essentially the opportunity for protest is at the public hearings, which would be at subdivision as well as this week. If it is approved, essentially MAPC is making a finding, which is always listed in your staff report. I'll call attention to item number 2, which talks about whether or not private rights are injured or endangered by the vacation of the portion of the setback, and whether or not the public will suffer any loss or inconvenience thereby. And so as you're considering the item today with public comment, we typically don't hear vacation items. So I wanted to bring that to your attention of essentially as you're looking forward, this is the finding that you're essentially making whether or not you approve it or not. So as you hear the public comment and consider the items for this case, whether or not any private rights are endangered or injured, or whether or not the public will suffer loss or inconvenience if this case were to be approved. And with that, I can stand for any questions.
Right.
Thank you, Philip. In some of the comments, we heard quite a bit about sight lines around the curve. Did Wichita Traffic Engineering have any comments related to that?
They did, and they felt that basically because it would still be 20 feet behind the property line and it would have to adhere to the setback along the north property line, that there was no concern about sight lines at this location.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? If not, we'll call on the applicant or agent and you will have 10 minutes. Please state your name and address.
I'm Amy Bedient.
Jason Bedient. We live at 355 Windrose Lake Drive. We applied for the vacation in the setback to build a 3-car garage next to our house here. uh, because of the unique shape and size, and the location of the house on the property, it's, quite irregular. So we applied for the application just to get a better positioning on the property. Uh, This, this application will set the, this vacation will give us the, numbers we need to move forward to the planning and the actual size and shape and location, the actual specifics of the building. And then, yeah, that's all we have.
Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Aldridge.
Do you support all the conditions and statements made by staff in the reports?
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks.
Any other questions from the commission?
No.
Yes, Mr. Zimmerman.
Is your property part of an HOA association?
That's kind of up for a debate. We know that it was suspended for between 2017. I believe it was recently on the paperwork change, but it's been not in good standing for several years.
So do you understand, even if we approve this and you are part of the HOA, you will have to go through them
Yes,
to
sir.
be able to build this?
We've already emailed them requesting architectural committee notes so that we can provide similar plans for our building.
Okay, I just want you to know that even though we might approve this, that doesn't mean you can build this.
Correct.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
It means you have the easement.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
it was explained to me that when I asked questions about a permit, where do I go to build a garage? When we initially looked at the land, it was recommended that I come up here to try and get a little more room and adjustment on that, so we could position the garage in a little bit different space. Once that was done, then I need to take any plans to the permit office to start that process, which we are not ready to do yet.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Now, we'll call on anybody from the public that would like to speak on this case. Please approach the podium, give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name's Chuck Barnes. I live at 323 Windrose Lake Drive. My wife and I have been out there about 34 years. I've been on the board in some capacity, approximately 31 years of that. It's just been common practice normally for the neighbors to approach a board member on what their plans are. In the years I've been out there and on the board, there's been 11 buildings, garages or outbuildings built, and they've approached me or one of the board members. And then we've just had a meeting, went over the drawings, the blueprints, and known where the property or where the building is going to be on the property before they started the process of going to the city and everything. So that has not been done. So that's a concern, because we don't know what the building's going to look like, exactly where it's going to be at, what it's going to be built out of. And normally that's been done. Just following common sense protocols for the neighbors, the neighborhood. And I'll give you an example of just two. Two of our neighbors across the street and a couple houses over in the last 3 years have built garages, and they presented it to the board and told us what they were going to build it out of. And that the garages look like they were built at the same time as the house. They blend in with the neighborhood. They match the home. In fact, one neighbor even went As far as researching brick to match his home, he drove clear to Nebraska to get a trailer load of brick to match for his garage to match his home. And to me, that's respect for your neighbors and your neighborhood. And just, we live in a beautiful neighborhood. Homes out there go from anywhere from 3 to probably as much as 800,000, maybe even more. It's a beautiful neighborhood. And I think just everybody should just use common sense and respect themselves, their neighbors, and the neighborhood. Any questions?
Mr. McKay?
Sir, I think that what you said is fine and it's true. But also because they were going to encroach on an easement, they had to come to this body to do that.
I understand that.
So that's their first step
Okay.
to get that done before they even, so.
I
I'm not
guess
trying
why,
to pick any side. I'm just saying that. there's
sure.
One side, like Mr. Zimmelman said, and the other side is, you have responsibility. You can't give them permission to do it unless we give them.
Oh, I
permission to do
agree.
an easement.
Yeah, you gotta go within the city first. I get that. But two, it's just common sense to be polite and go through your homeowners. Like I said, there's been 11 buildings built in the 34 years I've been there. All the people have went through the HOA to get our stamp of approval.
Mr. Aldridge?
Yeah, but sir, what it was just explained is that if this body, for example, denies it, it doesn't go your way. And, if we do approve it, Commissioner Zimmelman pointed out, which is correct, still got to go through the HOA and your design committee and everything else. So
Yes,
it's not a matter, of certain priorities, respect, this, that, and the other.
sure, sure.
And you've got to follow what your covenant states.
I agree.
So it makes sense that this process is first, because
Okay.
if it doesn't happen here, it's not gonna happen at all.
I get that. I get that.
Mr. Johnson, do you have any questions? Okay, thank you for your comments.
I guess I was curious, the other 11 garages are built, was any of them in an easement where they had to get it vacated?
All those buildings are built behind the property line and or even, and they're within the easements of their neighbor's property. So they were all done within code and the HOA.
And like we're saying, they got to get this approved for.
I agree.
Okay.
Should be.
Any other questions, Mr. Blick?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm hearing is you don't have a problem with him building a garage or a
No.
structure. You just want him to come before your board, is what you're saying.
Exactly. But like I said, it also helps when the board knows, the neighborhood knows that they're going to put in a building, anybody, and that it's going to blend in with their home. It's going to look like their home, the roof, the trim, the colors, the brick, everything. So it's going to look like it's been there forever.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on this?
Thank you.
Please give us your name and address and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Kivett. My wife, Tricia Walter, and I reside at 347 Windrose Lake Drive, which is this property just to the east. I submitted a letter which should have been in your packet. I'll address 3 brief points. First off, from a safety perspective, our neighborhood is an active neighborhood. We do not have sidewalks. We have many adults and children that regularly walk or bicycle the neighborhood. I heard the comment about the traffic engineer, but opening up this easement along the front with the opportunity for a garage to be adjacent to that corner is injurious to the public. There have been near incidents. My neighbor Steve, who lives one more house to the east, rides his bike probably 30 times around the neighborhood every day. He's had near misses with cars backing out of drives. I've had to stop. My wife has had to stop for kids who aren't paying attention. From having any type of obstruction there, from a building being right there, this easement is moving it closer, blocking part of that corner. The teenage drivers in the neighborhood are not always paying attention. So we're setting up an opportunity to have a building, essentially an alleyway building right next to the driveway. And that leads to the next point, is the neighborhood character. As Chuck already noted, it's already a neighborhood of half acre or more lots. So most of the houses, as you can see in this image right here, are set back well from the street, plenty of space. However, this easement vacation would allow for a very condensed and crowded building to be put on a small lot. A 30 by 40, I'm not sure, just looking at this, looking at the building next to it, I don't see how that's gonna fit and still allow access to the existing garage. From a neighborhood perspective, if I look at Gabe and Jessica's house or Austin's house, they're gonna have a large pole barn in their front yard. From a public nuisance perspective, it will be an eyesore, and it does not belong out next to the street. It's going to put at risk my property valuation because I have a very nice neighborhood that's going to have a pole barn right on the street. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of the speaker?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Williams Bay.
They indicated that it's gonna be a pole barn.
I have heard metal shed. I have not heard specific details.
Thank you.
Even a large garage would still be an alleyway type building right on this corner, right out next to the street in front of the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak on this case? Please come forward. Give us your name and address and you'll have 3 minutes. Please try to confine your comments to items that have not already been covered.
My name is Gabriel Tayton. I live at 340 Windrose Lake Drive. Right here. This neighborhood it's a different neighborhood. It's an older school neighborhood and it's maintained its character. And it's just something you want to drive home to and see every day. The lot that I'm going to be staring at with a commercial building, that will probably not look good, will not match. It will actually bring all of our property values down. We've done everything, all the other neighbors keep their yards up. This yard's not kept up, period. And they want to throw a barn on top of it. The last meeting they had mentioned they wanted to build a pole barn. It was at the last meeting. This is their front yard. This is not their backyard. This is not their side yard. Like Eric had stated, how would they access their garage? There's not enough room to put a barn. They won't be able to park in their garage. I mean, the way they're doing this is not correct. And if you give them this step, it just makes them pursue it more. I don't think it should be pursued. I think this whole case should be dropped. They bought the lot, being a triangle shape, knowing HOA, there's no reason they should actually try to put a barn there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes. I would like to just comment that what we are considering here is the zoning code and whether the request will meet the zoning code or any amendments that we make to it. As far as the appearance of the building, as long as it meets city requirements, then it becomes a homeowners association meeting problem. Anyway, go ahead.
My name is Colby Unruh. I live at 348 Windrose Lake Drive. It's this house right here. My big concern is also the safety, but I'd like to touch on it from a personal perspective. I have 3 small children, 4, 9, and 11. And our house in the neighborhood's kind of known as the house where all the kids come to. We have a swimming pool, we have a playground, we have a 3-acre forest behind us with dirt bike trails, go-kart trails. I mean, at any given time, there's, 10 kids at our house playing. And it seems to be, every time they come over, I'm at the driveway and I'm talking to them like, you need to watch both ways before you go across the street, because I watch them and they're not. And it's a constant battle with cars going faster on that curve. And it's very scary as it is. So my number one concern is if you put a building there, you can see a camper and cars parked right there. That's now going to be in front of the building. So it's going to be basically 100% blind spot. So even if the kids are crossing the street and watching both ways, if you can't see the car when you look both ways and there's a butterfly flying in the air and the kids see it and they're wandering around, that 2 seconds of time that goes by, they don't see the car, it's gonna be a, you know, a guaranteed accident. I mean, lots of kids, they're riding their bikes, they're walking, they're skipping, you know, whatever they're doing, but a lot of times they're not paying attention. And that's my biggest concern, is that someone's gonna get ran over. And, you know, I guess, you know, if it did happen, you know, who's liable for that? Because, you know, we're all up here saying that there's a very good chance it's happening. So I don't see how you're gonna see past the cars if they're parked in front of a building. It's gonna be 100% blind spot. So if someone does get hit or someone's kid gets killed and it's approved, where's the liability fall then? Because we've expressed that there's a good chance it will happen. It's already has almost happened. So that's my biggest question, is if it is approved, then, you know, who's responsible for it at that time?
Mr. Fry.
Sir, can you show me the location of your house again?
Right here. So I'm right in the middle of the curve. I own from there.
So
Sir, you need to use the arrow, the mouse.
Yeah.
So those trees right across the street from you, are those a visual barrier as well? For that curve?
This tree right here.
No, go a little north.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
No, not really, because they're trimmed up like 15 foot. So it's just a trunk, and the tree's back into the yard a little bit. But also, you know, these trees have been here for a long time and they planted there this big. So they may not have been a concern back then. We can't get rid of trees. So the situation already is not
But
that.
they're just as much as an obstacle as anything else that would be in the
Yeah, so I mean,
vacation area.
yeah.
Mr. Aldridge.
Yeah, there's been a lot of comments about how the proposed garage is going to block the view and cause a hazard and everything else. Looking at this aerial that we're looking at, there's quite a bit of distance between basically where the curb and where the corner of the proposed garage is gonna be. And it doesn't look like it's gonna be setting back any more than what the house just to the I guess northeast right there. And that you're still on that sharp curve. So
Yeah, so
you're acting like this thing is gonna be literally built out by the curb, and it's not. You know, you've got other distractions with these trees and stuff there. And again, all this is just a simple vacation request.
Yeah, so my biggest concern is that you can see a camper and a vehicle right there. There's now gonna be a building right there. So the area where you normally park your cars and your campers or whatever, trailers, whatever is no longer gonna be in that spot. It's gonna be in front of that spot. So if you give them the 10 foot down to 20 foot, there's really only another 20 foot from the front of their building to the ditch. So basically you're gonna have cars almost to the street right at that curve. And I'm talking about 8-year-old kids that aren't moving fast, that are, you know, just hanging out, having fun. I'm not talking about adults that are, you know, conscious of what everything's going on. But I'm looking at, you're moving the place where you normally park your vehicles in front of the building now. The building may not obstruct the view, but they're gonna put garage doors in front of that building. And in order to enter those garage doors, you're gonna have to have new driveway put in that's gonna go all the way to the ditch. So my question would be, is if there's cars all the way to the ditch, that's not, it looks far on this, but it's not. It's about, I don't know, maybe 150 feet. Speed limit is 30 miles an hour. How long does it take to go 150 foot?
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this case? Please give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. And confine your comments to item issues that have not already been covered.
My name is Austin Barnes. I live 344 Windrose Lake Drive right here. Direct catty corner to him. What I'd like to touch on would be precedent setting. I think if we grant an easement vacation request, that opens up the door for any other properties, any other areas in the subdivision that to be able to do this. Tying in with the safety, I don't think it's a good idea to start this now after how many years? I lived there for a year. The other concern that I would say that I have, when you, sir, asked if we had an HOA,
Did you see the discomfort on his face when he knew the answer was yes, but he didn't want to say it? He is going to oppose anything the HOA does, even if it gets to the point of legal action. I'm asking you to turn this down so that we don't have to get to this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Give us your name and address and you'll have 3 minutes.
Jessica Tayton. I live at 340 Windrose Lake Drive, which is right here, directly across from the homeowners. I'd like to show you this item in your paper right here, or in your packet. The top picture is a view coming from the south to the north, where the property will, or where the structure will be built. And what you'll see first on that street is their structure. If you give them the easement that is technically their front yard, they are wanting to build a structure in the front yard of their property, in front of the face of their property. No other house in this neighborhood has that. That will cause devaluation of all of our properties. In the future, if I ever wanted to sell, would anyone want to buy that? And he had mentioned, I think someone had asked him a question if he had known what kind of building he was going to build or whatever. In the last meeting, he said it was either going to be a metal shed or a pole barn. And I know aesthetics is not bad, but again, as the prior speaker said, you give him the front yard easement, he will build what he wants. He won't go through the HOA. He made it very clear to the vice president of the HOA who approached him a couple of weeks ago to ask him what he was doing. He said, I don't have to talk to the HOA. I don't have to get anything approved from the HOA. They are essentially trying to go around the HOA and get the approval of the city. Again, I ask that you guys please deny the request to vacate the front part of their property. That is their front yard. I go back to the pink drawing, or I think it's this drawing in your packet. If he puts it there, how is he going to access his current garage? All of this is devaluation of properties around him. I understand that you can do what you want on your own property, and I support that, but also with some thought to it. I live across the street, and I do not want my property, Austin's property, or anybody else's property to be devalued. There are 3 houses in the neighborhood, at least on this side of the neighborhood, that are 600,000 plus houses. 4 of them that are 450 plus houses. You go across the street to Talia, the new housing division, 600 minimum and above. We are competing with that neighborhood. We want to be just like them. We want people to want to come knock on our doors and buy our houses like they have in the past. I please request that you guys deny this vacation permit. Any questions?
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this? Give us your name and address and you'll have 3 minutes. And please try to confine your comments to new information. And additionally, I would say comments as to what the architectural design of this is going to look like is not something we're considering here. That's a step beyond this. Either the homeowners association or compliance with city building restrictions. Go ahead.
All right, my name's William Moore. I live at 352 Windrose Lake Drive at the Era, which is kind of diagonally out from the property. I appreciate the opportunity of this committee for us to come before you. I realize that this is a yes, no. What is legal or what passes by certain committees may be right legally, but is not right in the end in best interest. For example, when we were annexed by Wichita, our easements were readjusted. Okay, give me back my 8,000 plus square foot and I'll keep workers out of my front yard. Okay, so I understand that, but I appreciate the fact that in the best interest for the city and community, they took that property. I may own it, but I don't control it. We've heard some issues here where a committee from the city came back for driving safety and said, hey, there's no problem. That is because they can currently see around that curve, but they will not be able to see around that curve when the building is in place. And then you go to the building itself. A disparaging comment that the committee, the HOA was disbanded, non-functional. That is not true. I've lived there since 1999. Yes, did they do everything the way we did for 20 years in the last 5? No, but we're getting back on track with regular meetings. We never have had an issue with our residents. Now, were there other buildings built? Yes, but it's already been testified, every one of them, if it is a garage, large structure, is in a backyard. If it is a 2-car garage or possibly 3, it is well back from the front yard and is a small structure. A 30 by 40 is not a 2 or 3-car garage. Therefore, I would request that even though it may be legal, we disapprove this vacation. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this case at this time? If not, I will call on the agent or applicant to come forward, and you will have 2 minutes rebuttal.
Thank you. We just want to clarify some statements that were made. We have lived in the neighborhood for 10 years. In those 10 years, there have been 2 HOA meetings. We were planning to build a garage several years ago in 2017. We sent a request for records so that we could submit records similar to what had been submitted in the past. Those records were never submitted to us, never provided. We put that on pause because of a family situation. Now that we are looking at doing that again, we have submitted the email to the president. The president came over to our house on Saturday and asked if we would be willing to meet with him and the vice president that night. He came over at 4 o'clock. We had a soccer game at 7. We said we could meet afterwards at 8. He said they could not meet and asked if we could meet Sunday morning. We said we could meet Sunday morning and they never responded. So we are willing to work with the HOA and have tried to make contact with them. We have not received responses from them. We also have not stated that we are going to do a pole barn. We have said that we're going to do a building similar to the one that's behind us, which is a pole barn. That does not mean that we are making a pole barn. As far as the discussion of the cars in the blind spot, this is a garage. The cars will be in the garage. That's why we want to build the garage, so that the cars are not in the driveway. Jessica's story about the vice president and us refusing to talk to him. The only interaction I have had with Roger was when I stopped by his house and talked to him about his building, asked who built it, asked for their contact information, and told him that we were looking to build a similar one. He has not approached us since then, and we have never refused to talk to him.
We have 2 kids ourselves, and all the safety concerns would be ours as well. We would never do anything to risk the safety of our family or kids as well. I don't believe this says it at all.
And to clarify the number of buildings in our neighborhood, there are 17 properties with detached structures, ranging from very large pole barns. I don't have that in my notes, but much larger pole barns than the garage that we are proposing to build. And some of the properties have multiple detached garages on them.
13 have been built since 2000.
Folks, your time is up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Yeah, Mr. Fry.
Mr. and Mrs. Bedient, thank you. I'm looking at a Google image and I see a little play structure.
Yes.
Is that on the west side of this vacation request? Or would it be moved outside of the vacation request if this was successful in passing?
We haven't discussed it, but there'd be no real reason to move it because we're not proposing to build over this far. You couldn't put a building over there because of the back easement or setback, whatever.
Right, because what you're proposing where this vacation, it is east of that fence line as far west as it goes right now, correct?
I'm not sure I understand.
So the fence line that I see on the north end,
Okay.
right there,
Mhm.
your building, the vacation request is to the east of that corner.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Williams Bay.
Are you planning on using the same driveway for the new building, or are you gonna have a new driveway to the garage?
Same one.
You'll access the garage from the existing driveway?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? If not, thank you. We'll bring it back to the commission now for discussion and action. What's your pleasure?
I have a question.
Mr. McKay.
In, I guess, whoever on the staff, it shows this picture, and I'm going to refer to this. It shows in the past, they're asking for vacation of the whole thing from property line to property line, correct? Is there any possibility that we could just vacate what they need for the building and not the whole, not the whole easement?
Yes, you can, in your motion, if you wish to approve it for only the space that they need it, and they would have to provide an updated legal description for essentially just the area that the building would occupy.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Warren.
I'm inclined to go along and approve the request. The owners have got a difficult situation. They're an odd lot. It's small to begin with, and then an odd shape that makes it even more difficult to use. And a little variation, to allow them to use the property to their best advantage. I would be concerned if I was worried about the safety, but the problem with safety, I think, comes from the sharpness of the curve that's to the north of them there. That's a sharp curve. Kids drive around there at 30 miles an hour. That's dangerous, but that's not got nothing to do with what we're doing here with this variant. So I would move that we approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Mr. Warren, second from Ms. Clounce. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
We have 2 noes. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to move into public hearings and consider item 4.1. Mr. Fry will be abstaining.
Yes, good afternoon. Brad Etherly, Senior Planner, MAPD. We are here to discuss case con 2024-00020. For this case, the applicant is requesting an amendment to a conditional use to permit outdoor entertainment / dancing and modify the hours of operation of the outdoor entertainment on property zoned LC Limited Commercial with a total of 1.17 acres. It's located approximately 700 feet east of North Tyler Road and north of West 21st Street, and is located at 8558 West 21st Street North. In 2012, the property received a conditional use to permit a nightclub in the city. The conditions pertaining to this property are listed in the staff report. I will point out a couple though. One was that no outside loudspeakers or entertainment, including dancing, and that the nightclub shall be located in the building shown on the approved site plan. On January 2nd, 2024, the Wichita City Council approved changes to the Unified Zoning Code to define entertainment establishment in the city as a venue that allows alcohol and live entertainment with a maximum capacity of less than 300 persons. Under this current code, the use established on the property would not be considered a nightclub in the city, it would be considered an entertainment establishment in the city. The property does abut SF5 Single Family Residential District to the north and northwest, and the UCC requires a conditional use for outdoor service of food or drink as an accessory part of the operation of a tavern or drinking establishment. Nightclub in the city, event center, or entertainment establishments in the city, if the property is located within 300 feet of a church, public park, school, or residential zoning district, as in this case, shall be subject to the conditions listed in the agenda report. The applicant has requested changes to the original conditional use language, which are listed in the staff report. I would like to point out three. One is that outside entertainment, outdoor speakers, and dancing is allowed on the existing outdoor spaces. Another one, no noise generated in conjunction with the outdoor use shall exceed a sound level of 5 decibels, and any amplifiers or speakers shall be pointed toward the building and not toward any property line or residential use. And then lastly, the outdoor entertainment and dancing is allowed until 11 o'clock PM on Friday and Saturday only. Staff does recommend changes to the requested language that limits the conditional use to the site that the establishment is located, to the suite that the establishment is located. Staff also recommends adding a starting time of 12 o'clock PM on days outdoor entertainment is allowed, so on Friday and Saturday, as well as adhering to the screening requirements of the UZC and the landscape buffer requirements of the Wichita Landscape Ordinance. Currently, no screening exists between the property and the adjacent residential zoning to the north, which is a golf course. A few trees are adjacent to the subject property. However, these trees are not part of the subject property and therefore do not satisfy the current screening requirements of the UZC. The applicant is not proposing any screening. Staff recommends the screening would be appropriate, that screening would be appropriate at this location. You can see by the zoning map before you that the subject site is within a commercial shopping center. Property to the north is zoned SF5, single family residential, and is developed with a golf course. Properties to the south across West 21st Street are zoned LC Limited Commercial District and GC General Commercial District, and are developed with a fast food restaurant and a car rental facility respectively. Properties to the east are zoned LC Limited Commercial District and are developed with a dance studio and a medical facility. A property to the west is zoned GC General Commercial and is developed with a vehicle sales operation. Going into the case history, on March 12th, 1989, the subject site was platted as part of the Reflection Ridge 3rd Edition. In 2012, a conditional use was granted to allow a nightclub in the city for live music, dancing, and karaoke. However, the conditional use prohibited outside loudspeakers and entertainment, including dancing. In 2020, an administrative adjustment to reduce the required amount of parking from 167 spaces to 160 spaces was approved. And in 2022, an application for a similar request to the loudspeakers and entertainment, including dancing, was made. That was denied by the MAPC. The site does have direct access to West 21st Street North, which is a paved 5-lane arterial with a sidewalk on the north side. Wichita Transit serves the subject properties within 1/4 mile west on the northeast corner of West 21st Street North and North Tyler Road. And all municipal services are in place to serve the site. We can go to the future growth map. The proposed application is in conformance with the 2035 future growth concept map of the community investments plan. The map identifies the area in which the site is located to be appropriate for new employment. And the proposed application is not in conformance with the locational guidelines of the community investments plan. The locational guidelines state that non-residential uses should have site design features that limit traffic, noise, lighting, and adverse impacts on surrounding residential land uses. The intensity of the use with the outdoor noise next to residential use could have negative impacts. However, the staff recommended conditions of approval are designed to mitigate negative impacts. If we can go to the site fix. Here we are looking straight onto the site in question, looking north. Next picture. This is looking north away from the site, so behind the humidor onto the golf course and the residential dwellings behind it. Next picture. This is looking east away from the site. Next picture. This is looking south away from the site. Next picture. And this is looking west away from the site. Staff does recommend approval of the conditional use subject to the conditions listed in the agenda report, which does include edits made by staff. With that, I can stand for any questions, and I do not know if the applicant is in attendance.
Is the applicant or agent present?
Okay, so they are.
Fine. So any questions or discussions from the commission? Mr. Aldridge?
Thank you, sir. Question, in your opinion, from when the conditional use application was made back in 2022, has there been significant changes from that time to this time?
To my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the commission or discussion at this point? Mr. Blick?
Can you go back to the aerial map? Does it look like the closest house is gonna be just to the north? Or would it be to the west? It looks about the same distance.
I would say this would be probably closer. You've got these also over here. I don't know the distance, but then you also have the Reflection Ridge senior living here as well.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Now we'll call on the agent or applicant to speak. Please give us your name and address, and you will have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Chris Bohm from Garver, 1995 Midfield here in Wichita. I am the agent for the applicant, and Mr. Etherly gave a kind of a zoning CUP update. I'm going to give you a little bit more of an operational overview of the humidor. So it was opened as a lounge in the fall of 2020, but it existed as a cigar store before that, but it turned into a lounge in 2020. So in April of 2022, a patio was constructed with a stage. And late that month in April 29th, in fact, the first live music outdoors was held on site. So after that point from April, that one concert through May, there were 9 live music events at this venue, 2 of which we know, because I can't go back in time and see how many there were at this time, but 2 of them for sure were outside. And then in June of 22, there were 5 different events, musical events. And I don't know, but at least one of those was outdoors. In July of 2022, actually the 23rd of July, there was a concert that was, well, let's just say it caused some complaints. And I would imagine you'll hear about some of that today. And a little later on, I'll have Chris Wilbur come up. He was a bartender at the time. Now he is the general manager. He was there for that event. So if you have specific questions about it, he can answer that. He can also talk about what they're doing now, even with their interior music. So that event caused all the music to go inside. And in November of 2022, they traditionally had music till midnight. And then they backed that down from typically 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. So that's been since November 2022. Then you heard about the previous CUP amendments that have been before you. So like I said, currently the music's indoors. If you've been out there, it's very beautiful. There are 3 big garage doors that face out to the golf course and one smaller one. They set up inside by the smaller door typically and perform. So there's just been a great desire for outdoor music by many of the folks who patronize the humidor and some of the neighbors that live there. And it's really cool because if you go out there, a lot of golfers will come by in the evenings and park there right by the back patio and either come into the establishment or when they had music outdoors, sit and listen to it. So it's kind of a unique, very unique location. So it's distinct, most certainly. So the owner and the manager are back. It's been 6 or 8 months now, and they want to ask permission to have outdoor music and dancing once more, but they want to take considerations of the neighborhood into account. So the comment earlier about no change from the previous CUP application is not correct. And I'll give you the distinction between the two. On the previous request, the day or the site included Dudley's, the pub, and the humidor. This request has been reduced to only the humidor. And in fact, staff is asked to drill it only to the suite. So it's the humidor suite. It's the only business there that would have the conditional use to do this kind of operation. It's about a 50% reduction in the area for which this would be valid. The hours of operation changed substantially from the previous request. The previous request asked for Sunday through Thursday from noon till 11 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday till midnight. This request has eliminated all days except Friday and Saturday and puts the cutoff time at 11 p.m. So there's quite a change in that request for time. The other element of the request today is just the volume, the sound control, and it's 5 decibels over ambient. So that's what we're asking for, and that's what staff has recommended. That would be over the noise of a patio full of people, and then the music starts, and that's where you'd measure the decibels. And then we have the speakers that have to be aimed into the building. And typically when they're outdoors, they'll have the garage doors open because people can sit in there as well. So there is some deflection of sound that goes into the garage. Mr. Wilbur will talk about having a decibel meter and how he's been monitoring even the indoor music just to see its effect on the adjacent golf course. And the number 4, this thing is enforceable. There's a clause in there, if a complaint is filed and a zoning administrator investigates it with concurrence of the planning director, this can become null and void. It would go away. So because of that, there's going to be a real management of sound that occurs as they open this venue for music. It can be shut off and it's just done. So they're going to take care of that because they'll lose the right if they violate it. We agree with the staff conditions that were presented with one request, and that's on the screening. Given this unique location, looking out over the golf course and the fact that patrons of the golf course often just drive their carts or walk right up into the facility, screening the whole back, it ruins the ambiance of the area. We would, however, look at the landscape ordinance and work with planning staff to look at some kind of a cluster, plantings, trees and bushes that would provide some screening and some landscaping, but yet keep some of the open views and the open access that makes this so unique. So that's called a buffer with no screening in the landscape ordinance, and we would ask for that consideration. We believe this is a fair and reasonable request for this site. Number one, it's very unique. Again, if you've been out there, that patio adjacent to the golf course is just a unique place in West Wichita. The humidor and their performers are enjoyed by the patrons and many of the golfers. And some of the neighbors, they enjoy the idea of being here and having access to this music. when the weather allows. And it's not only an amenity to that area, it's an amenity to West Wichita. There's just not that many outdoor entertainment venues. It's just a beautiful place and uniquely situated. So it's actually just a wonderful thing for West Wichita to have access to that for those who enjoy music, and especially those who may enjoy music outdoors. So I'm going to recap this before I have Mr. Wilbur come up. One, we've halved the size of the area of request. It's drilled right down to the humidor in their suite. The hours have been reduced to only Friday and Saturday till 11 p.m. We have to manage the sound or it's enforceable and it goes away. So with that, if Mr. Wilbur would come up, I'll let him finish with my time and then we can both kind of answer questions together if I may. And could I request 1 additional minute for Mr. Wilbur at this time?
I'll give you 1 additional minute.
Thank you.
Great. First of all, thanks for everyone for being here and kind of hearing our side of the story. Took over about 1.5 years ago, just some background from the GM spot. Like Chris said, I was a bartender in the night of question that really we received a lot of those issues and complaints. It was very loud. I know being in the front of the building and being able to hear it as clear as I could, I knew that it was pretty loud outside. Since then and taking over, we all have made a real concerted effort to minimize the amount of sound that's departing from the backstage across the golf course. At least 2-3 times a night, Friday and Saturday, you can find me standing on hole number 8 at the golf course, or where the monument sign is, making sure that sound is not pervasive and annoying, I guess, obnoxious. And I know that in the past, the night we were talking about was definitely obnoxious. So, I would gladly entertain any of the homeowners to join me on hole number 8 and give me their opinions. And I know, like Chris said, this is enforceable. One complaint and we lose it. It's not what we want to do. We don't want to have, bashes and blowout parties and have noise, filtering through everybody's homes that live that close to the humidor. What we want to do is be a good neighbor and come together and really, like Chris said, build something on the west side that's an opportunity for people to come out, sit on the patio, sit inside, have a cigar, have a drink, and enjoy, something that's not really readily available on the west side. So, my job is to kind of be that person that pleases everybody, and we all know that that's not possible. But I know that in this business, I do everything that I can to try to make people happy. And I want to make sure that I kind of straddle the side, at least that fence on both sides, because I do think it's a great opportunity for us and great opportunity for the west side.
Thank you for your comments. We'll bring it back to the commission now. Does anybody have any questions or comments of the agent or applicant? Yes, Mr. Mader.
My question, we have a site plan labeled as page 7 that describes the patio, shows the patio and the garage. The size of that patio seems to go well out on the golf course. Is that an old idea? Right there where it goes clear across the path, is that an old or is that current?
I would point out that the cart path is here. And the back of the patio is here within the ownership line of the lot. So does that explain?
What is that line then that says patio area? Oh, those are just your dimension lines. Okay, I'm clear on that one.
Okay.
Very much so.
Okay.
Okay. What is the current ambient sound on that patio?
I could give a general idea. I have the decibel reader that once we lost the outside noise, we purchased that, and I kind of walked that 20 feet. I think that's what the ordinance for the city is, as far as where it should be at. I can tell you that 55 decibels is roughly, would be that back patio, lively, maybe not full, but maybe 3/4 full. Kind of hard to put that in perspective, as far as, what 55 decibels is. But we do everything we can that it's not.
My question is, if we went out and measured it on a night where there is no activity, what is the decibel limit on decibel level on that on that
I would
patio
say
right now?
45 to 50 with the 21st Street traffic, with the other businesses that are right there. And a lot of times there's a lot of activities at the church or the dance studio that are filtering noise out as well.
Any other question of the agent? If not, thank you for your
Thank you. Thanks.
comments. It appears that there's a good number of folks here that are interested, pro or con for this issue. And I would request as you speak, in consideration of other speakers and interested parties, that you confine your comments only to new information and don't repeat what's already been said. With that being said, I'd like to call on anybody who'd like to speak. Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Nick Morton. I live at 2309 North High Point Circle, just to the east over here. It's not shown on this map. I'd like to begin by stating that I support the business of the Humidor and its patrons, which include many of our friends, neighbors, and golfing acquaintances. Under the current conditions of use, it allows our neighborhood and other patrons to gather, enjoy a cocktail, a cigar, and entertainment while sitting inside or outside. Should you vote to deny this conditions of use request, patrons would still be able to enjoy each and every one of the benefits I've just mentioned. Should you vote to approve, it will have a dreadful detrimental impact to those single-family properties located in close proximity. The staff report states this is not in conformance with the locational guidelines of the Community Investment Plan, and that the outdoor entertainment next to residential areas could have negative impacts, including but not limited to creating noise pollution. It has proven in the past to definitely create noise pollution to both nearby residents and those trying to enjoy a round of golf. Approval of this request would absolutely represent a loss in the use and enjoyment of our residences. Our property values would likely be affected as the area around this establishment would become known for the loud outdoor entertainment played every weekend. I've never seen a real estate listing touting the fact that your new home will be bathed in loud outdoor music each and every weekend. Occupancy rates at the Reflection Ridge Retirement Community could also be affected, as potential residents learn that a loud nightclub entertainment establishment is within earshot. We currently have a traveling nurse staying with us, and she works 12-hour shifts, which include Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Should this be approved, she and others in their own unique situations would not be getting the rest needed. The last time outdoor entertainment was used at this location, it was so intrusive that you were held captive to it with no option to escape it. Behaviors such as public intoxication, public urination, driving while under the influence, destruction of private property, fighting, and a suspect arrested for brandishing a gun were all observed. I believe that both those of us opposing the proposed conditions of use and those supporting it have some common ground on which we can agree. We both want a place we can gather with our friends, enjoy an evening in a safe, healthy, and peaceful environment. We currently have that. I would ask that you please reject this proposal so we can continue to enjoy our neighborhood as it was.
Your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Michelle Harms. My address is 2403 North Lake Ridge Circle. It's a little under 1,500 feet from the Humidor. To answer your question, Mr. Blick, my husband had to leave early, but he had done some aerial views of how far the homes were from the Humidor. The closest is the retirement community. It's a 3-story apartment community, and it's 375 feet. The closest regular homes are within 400 and 500 feet. There are 200 homes within 2,000 feet. So that gives you a little perspective for that. A couple years ago, when the Humidor had live music outside, and I would add on more than one occasion, we could hear the music inside our house with the doors and windows closed. That is my objection. I don't have anything against the humidor or its patrons, but I would like to have a choice of whether I listen to their music or not inside my home. The humidor is simply too close to adjacent homes to allow outdoor music. An outdoor entertainment district is not appropriate so close to a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes. And please confine your comments to new subject information. Thank you.
I'm Kay Bruce. I live at 2418 North Morning Dew Street. I live in the patio homes that I back up to the women's tee of the one. So I'm not in what you all consider to be the affected area. And I was here at the last one of these meetings and explained that not only our homes are 6 feet apart, which creates an effect that pulls the sound through with the breeze or the wind or whatever. I felt it through the bricks in my home. And I'm sitting on the back side of my home, and I have several layers of houses before that. So my prepared remarks are this. Why are we here again? We followed the correct rules. We showed up to voice our concerns, and this body voted this down last year. How many do-overs do we have to spend our tax dollars on? We have paid taxes for years for a zoning board that adopted an overlay for our community. Rather than pit neighbor against neighbor and allow the noise to intrude into our homes, I would like to see this board maintain the integrity of the zoning plan of light commercial. I just completed 3.5 years of cancer care for cancers 3 and 4. Rest and peace are my friends. I sit late into the night on my patio watching the stars and enjoying the calm after hard days. I back up, I already said that. Yet I hear the music, the bass, and the screams and yells from those enjoying. You have already given them the compromise, pro or con. Those who enjoy that atmosphere can enjoy the music indoors with the doors closed while we enjoy the calm and peace of our homes, because we have nowhere else to go if you allow them to intrude into our homes. I graduated Wichita State University with a vocal performance degree. Approving a music venue regardless of zoning should require much more study and acoustical requirement. The humidor is a reverberation chamber. Have you heard of a cello box or a platform? Cellists sit on a box with holes in the side to amplify the amount of sound they can create. The humidor is built as such. The humidor has nothing to impede sound, no acoustical walls, no sound shell, which you could require that they build on the back of it. Just open fairways lined with trees and houses, an elder care home, buildings and walls of brick, and an asphalt roadway, all open pathways to travel the sound even further, and they do. This same body already denied the restaurant 6S from having outdoor music due to the noise concerns it would create for the homes beyond their business. How can you say yes now to something you said no to just down the road? It is incumbent on the humidor to find a property that falls within the proper guidelines for their business plan. Please don't choose one group of people versus the other, but instead follow the zoning plan we have paid taxes for and let them find a venue location in the correct zoning area.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Isabel Johnson. I'm not a speaker. I'm part of planning staff. I'm just going to pull up the PowerPoint again really quick because our internet has gone down.
If anyone would like to speak, we can use this for now. Oh, if you would like to speak, we can use this for now for the wireless.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please. Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Ronald Fisher, 8769 West Northridge Court.
I'd like to not challenge the veracity of the statements, but in 2022, there was at least a dozen weekends where we could hear it. We're 2,600 feet from the humidor north of it. We could hear it inside, we could hear the bass, we could hear all the instruments, we could hear the words to the songs, and we could hear the drum bass go until midnight a number of times. It was not a single event. I've never heard anything on 21st Street that kept me up at night. And we don't go to bed early. We go to bed at 11:30. But when we do go to bed, we'd like to have it quiet. That's 2,600 feet, just under a half mile. And I've respect the humidor as an enterprise, as a business. They can expect to have their success and accomplish what they want with their venue. But we were there first. If you know the history of Reflection Ridge, it was started out as a monument to an individual, Reg Booth, whose wife and two sons were killed in a tragic accident in the mid-'80s. He established that whole neighborhood as a tribute to them and to their death, not as a venue for nightclubs and other entertainment. I would also add that it shouldn't have to be one or the other. But what's the guarantee? When we complained about it 2 years ago, we were told there's really nothing that can be done. So what is the recourse? Do we have to record it when we can hear it a half mile away? What will happen if we do record it? Do they get a slap on the hand, or is there actually any enforcement that can guarantee that we have our rights to be observed as well as they do as a business?
Please give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Shannon Eels, and I live right here at 2401 North Ridgeside Circle. I can see the humidor's patio from my backyard. First of all, I would like to say we've already experienced disruptive flights of loud music outside the patio of the humidor when they took it upon themselves to do it in the summer of 2022. The bass could be felt in our house, shaking, making things rattle. I, for one, have chronic migraines, and it's not easy. I also have two kids who are teenagers and go to bed early. I also work the night shift from 1:15 a.m. to 7:30. I also go to bed around 6 p.m. to get some sleep before I head into work. As a single mom, I would like to be able to be productive at work and keep my job. Loud music in my bedroom from the humidor is not acceptable at all. Reflection Ridge homeowners should not have to deal with the zoning changes that will disturb our health and sleep. We've already had somebody come through our backyard from being drunk at the humidor who wanted to avoid the main streets. Having this, but have more people drinking, and it's not acceptable. Please reject it.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? I would appreciate it if we could hear something different than what the sound is like to the neighborhood, because we've heard a lot of that. So please give us some new information.
I'm Larry Combs. I reside at 2406 North Ridgeside Circle, just across the street from the lady that just spoke. And I don't know what I did, but that's okay. I live very near. I won't bore you with decibels and all that because of what I know you can put in a thimble and still have room to put a little bit of whiskey if you so choose. I know nothing about that, but I know loud is loud, and it was loud the time I talked about, and that's all I'll say about that. All I would say to you is this decision you're going to make today is not a one and done, and we all know it. We're back here 2 years later, not quite. So if you decide to move forward with a yes, it's going to start a long-term process, I'm afraid. As I walk the area over there, there's plenty of territory for this venue to grow, and it probably will. I think the Humidor is a fine establishment. I think the way it is now is working very well. Nick Morton said it all. Everything that is being said that could be accomplished by having the outdoor venue is already being accomplished. So why do we need to have the outdoor venue when we know the problems it's caused? As a public servant, I've dealt with a lot of issues, a lot of large crowds, a lot of problems, and there's one thing I can assure you. The problems that may develop more often than not will not come from the patrons that go to the humidor. But as the loud music is heard and as it grows, problems will come with it. So please be diligent in your decision. It's not one and done. And the first yes is going to make subsequent no's when you're asked to expand this venue over time. And as one of you said on the water issues and some other things, nobody can tell what will happen in the future. But I can tell you one thing for sure, having served the public and dealt with kids and parents and issues, alcohol and human nature don't mix. And when you try to corral human nature, once we have the influences going on that can come from the outside with this venue, that's trying to corral. It's kind of like trying to catch the Kansas wind we've all been enduring of late. You've said no once. I applaud you for your courage. I would ask you to do the same again. I would just finish with thanking you. It's been a long afternoon for you. And it's very clear we do live in a divided America. And I don't envy the decision you have to make. But thank you for the time and your service to the public. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Is there another speaker? Please give us your name and address, and you will have 3 minutes.
I'm Paul Highcotter, 8203 Reflection Road. We've lived in our home for 33 years. And I wanted to say that the pictures that you saw up front.
Sir, can you use the mouse to point with?
Yeah.
We're recording this, and we need to.
Okay. The picture that you were shown from the north is this fairway, which looks like there's no homes. But honestly, there's probably 90 homes right here to the northeast that are getting all this sound. Now, I'm not going to bore you with what other people said, but I worked in a very sophisticated research laboratory for sound for 6 years. And when you talk about ambient decibels, I consider ambient what it is right now. If you consider ambient at the patio, all you have to do is go to a lattice table and establish your ambient and then another 5 decibel on top of that. So we're getting flooded with way more than ambient sound when the band's playing. We usually go to bed at 10. You can't get to sleep on Friday and Saturday nights until they shut down. So we can hear it from inside our house, our front porch, back porch. And, you know, I understand everybody likes to use an outdoor entertainment venue. And I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with being forced to listen to the sound. So if it's your choice, that's fine. But don't force it on the rest of us. That's all I have.
Next speaker, please. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Charles Bruce, live at 2418 North Morning Dew. We've been there about 8 years. When I first got there, or we first moved there, there was a loud noise coming out of the golf club. And so, being naive as I was at that time, probably still am, I called the head of the HOA for the master HOA. To complain, he said, "No, you don't call me to complain. You call police." And he said, and that's what's going to happen. Since then, I am now the volunteer president of our Morning Dew HOA. And like my wife said, we can hear the music clear out there. This thing about you're not going to hear it. It blasts that in the air. We all get it. It reverberates everywhere. And there are 576 homes, I think that's the number, in Reflection Ridge. And every one of them will be subject to be intruded on by the music. But I also serve as president of the HOA. I'm on the master HOA also. And we have had incidents where people have complained. There's one they were complaining about a batting cage. And we forced the resident who had the batting cage to remove it. And you can imagine how much louder loud music is going to be on a Friday and Saturday night when all of us are home. We're home. A lot of people work. They like to relax on Friday and Saturday night, and we're going to be listening to this music. And the gentleman that said, "Oh, it's such a great deal for our area, our neighborhood. Why don't you put one in your neighborhood? Okay, just take it over there. We don't want it. We don't want it in our neighborhood. You rejected it once. Now they want to redo because they didn't like the answer that they got. And so they've come back and said, well, let's talk about this again. We'll tell you about all the improvements. It's going to be noisy, and you are going to get complaints, and we are going to call the police because that's who we're supposed to call if we complain about noises, loud noise. I mean, how many complaints do you have to get before we get any action? It doesn't sound like anything happened before. And another thing, we're going to have drunks there. I don't care if they're on golf carts or in cars. Drunks in golf carts are still drunks. And speeding through the neighborhood on a golf cart after you've been drinking or through the neighborhood, it's just, why would we want to put that in a residential area that we all move to? And we love the area. It's a fantastic area. But you don't live there, and you want to ruin our area by bringing that to the humidor. Take it to your house. Take it to your neighborhood and see how you like it, and come back and tell us, have you done that for years? Thank you.
We have another speaker. Please contain your comments to things that we haven't heard. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks. Thank you for your time. My name is Robert Truex. I live at 2310 North Pepper Ridge Circle, which is right here. So I'm about 550 feet from the property. I understand we've covered the sound issue, but the parents of the 13 minor children on my block, it is a big issue for them. My neighbors across the street, in fact, right here, moved a year ago because even with the sound indoors and the band indoors, they had young children and they could no longer deal with it. A couple of things I'd point out. In the summer of 2022, it was mentioned that there was only one occurrence that was egregious. That's completely false. There was multiple occurrences where the sound could be heard as far away, to my knowledge, as the golf club, the clubhouse, which is a third of a mile away from there. They ignored numerous noise complaints 2 years ago. I don't have any faith that they will adhere to the guidelines that they've set forth. One of their advertisements for this meeting, I know I was out of town, so I wasn't able to submit the paperwork, but they kind of, they're telling their patrons basically, and some people on Facebook have commented, it says, do you want to see live music return to the patio? If so, we need your help. The live music is on the patio still. They may not be playing it on the patio, but with the garage doors rolled up and the people enjoying it on the patio, I don't see how changing this is going to be of any benefit. So that's really all I had. Thank you for your time.
Are there any other speakers? Again, please contain your comments to new information. Give us your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Sandy Sherlocker. And have you ever sat at the stoplight and had the thumping bass of a neighboring car permeate and shake your car? Well, imagine returning home seeking solace in the quiet of your own home and not being able to. This is ridiculous. And I need to check, okay, on the map right now where they have the humidor outlined. When you say 100 feet, or 100 feet, 300 feet, I'm sorry. The retirement home is not 300 feet from their property line. Do we consider property line or do we consider building? Can anybody tell me?
Staff?
Property line?
I'm going to look to staff to provide an answer, but ma'am, I think it just depends on what you're trying to take the measurement for. In what regards do you mean it?
Well, on one of it said it should be 300 feet from.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
It said it should be 300 feet from residential churches. I can't remember what the other thing was, but it's not 300 feet.
Maybe after you conclude your comments, then maybe we can have staff address that.
Ma'am, could you give us your name and address again, please?
Sandy Sherlocker, 2305 North High Point Circle.
Thank you.
I live, how do we do this? Where are we at? I live right here. Whoop, oh, sorry. Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, just to clarify, when we talk about an entertainment establishment needing to be a certain amount of feet away from a residential district, that number is 300 feet, and it is from property line to property line. Now, it is not a residential use, it is a residential district. And so in this case, the golf course is within a residential district. So it abuts that residential district. So it's actually 0 feet from that district.
And
so
And Brad, you don't mean that it has to be located that far away. You mean that if it's within that distance, then it triggers a requirement for a conditional use.
Correct. So if it was further than that, it would be permitted. But if it's within that, then it's got to meet this conditional use requirement. Does that clear things up? Okay.
Thank you. Next speaker, I'd like to try to wrap this up. I think we've gotten a strong voice from people regarding noise and the effects of it from different areas, but
I'll be a little
we need
different
to
then.
move on.
Lynette Juline, 2505 North Green Meadows Circle, which is within Reflection Ridge. It's about 3 blocks from the clubhouse, so I'm not directly right around. The only thing that I'm going to add, because I think we've all addressed the sound and all that, is I am a golfer, way too much probably. I spend a lot of time out there, and the humidor is actually a place to go to hang out, hear music, see your friends. A lot of people go there, and this is actually for a benefit. I get everybody's upset about the music and the loudness, but my only opinion is that it's a great thing for our community. There's a lot of noise on the 18th green. We listen to the patio all the time at Reflection Ridge. I've missed many putts because people are up there laughing and yelling, but we're not talking about any of that today. We're only going to talk about on that end. There is live music that happens at the clubhouse. They do a lot of things over there as well, but not one person has ever complained about those.
Oh, that's not true at all.
Well, we're not here, and I didn't interrupt you when you spoke. So they do all of that up there as well, and we haven't been to a meeting where we're stopping live music up there either. So I'm not here to argue. I'm in support of it, and that's just my position.
Thank you.
One comment.
Excuse me.
I'd like the audience to contain their comments to themselves. Everybody respected you when you spoke, and we want to have everybody respected.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Dan Giroux. I'm a Dugan Drew Law. I'm at 3636 North Ridge Road, Suite 100, Wichita, Kansas 67205. I represent a couple of adjacent landowners, one at 8550 West 21st Street, which is owned by Cutting Edge Investments. There's two businesses within that property. One is ABC Liquor, the other one is Dudley's. And then I also represent the owners of 2231 Reflection Road, which currently is the Encore Dance Studio. I have discussed this in detail with my clients. I've discussed the application. They've actually read the application, and I don't think they would characterize it as a redo. It's not a redo. If you actually read the substance of the application and how different it is from what it was a couple of years ago, as Mr. Baum has pointed out, you will recognize that there's a lot of safeguards that are put into place that would combat any type of issues with sound. The one thing I will strike back at on a few people here is that there's a lot of bars around, and there's a lot of people in golf carts, in cars that are going to different bars and not just the humidor. I think it's to attribute any issues just because it's the humidor, I think is a bit disingenuous. My clients support this. They would ask that you approve it. They will tell you that the humidor They're good neighbors. They're stewards of the business community. There's a lot of overlap in terms of clients and customers between that business in this corridor. And with that, I appreciate your time. Does anyone have any questions for me? Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak? And again, please speak on something that we haven't already heard about. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try and make it short and sweet.
Give us your name and address, please.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have 3 minutes.
My name is Jane Shaw. I live at 2402 North Ridgeside Circle. Make it kind of brief and short. I want to just make sure that we're talking about noon on Fridays and Saturdays to 11 p.m. 52 weeks a year. If this is passed, they may not play that often, but they have the right to. I do not want to sit in my home for 52 weeks out of the year dreading every Friday and Saturday night. So I ask you, please take that into consideration. And when you're making your call on whether you will pass this or not.
Next speaker, please give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes.
Greg Sharp, 2313 North High Point Circle. I live about 240 yards to the east of Humidor. And for the golfers, it's about a 4-iron for Tiger Woods. That's how close it is. The aerials look a little closer or a little further away. So it's closer than what you think. It built, like you say, it's built on the by the golf course. Well, the golf course is open air. It goes out a lot easier. And putting a screen up, even trees will not slow the noise down. So I'd like for you to at least consider that. And one other thing I wanted to say is this last weekend, I think it's last weekend, I was laying in bed listening to them, and they were playing out in their building. I was here listening to it in my bedroom. So, and they probably didn't have 55 in their building. And there's one other thing I was going to say, but I can't think of it right now. But I'm totally against the outside.
Are there any other speakers? Let's hear some new information, please. You have 3 minutes. Give us your name and address.
My name is Ron McEwen, 2802 Spring Meadow. I do live in Reflection. I do live on the other side of Reflection. I've been there for 24 years, and I don't know how many times, like some other people mentioned, there's been loud music at the clubhouse, other private parties throughout Reflection. That being said, the new owners are trying to make changes. I think we should give them a chance. And you said there's already a checks and balance. If they're too loud, it's done and revoked already. So I think you should give them a chance and pass it for right now and see what happens. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please give us your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kevin Shaw. I'm at 2402 North Ridgeside Circle and Reflection Ridge. Reflection Ridge residential area is not conducive for outdoor rock and roll music or 2 or 3 4-piece groups in there. All you have to do is look at those attached pictures that I have coming down. Shows a completely different perspective of where this residential area is. You have to keep in mind where that golf course lies, and it acts just, if you're familiar with the principle of Venturi, it acts exactly like a Venturi where it catches that sound and it moves it right on down that way. That's why you can hear the sound so well. We've got, in 2022, MAPC as well as the 5th District, they both denied this for exactly the same reason. They've repackaged this, but it's still the same issue we are going to have to deal with, just like what we did in 2022. I've recorded over 70 dBs that summer, which were quite a few venues until we finally got on it. And we recorded over 70 dBs, and that was 2.5 tenths of a mile away. 2.5 tenths of a mile. Mine, I'm about 300 yards, and I was about 72 dBs. I recorded two guys in the humidor and recorded two guys using amplification inside. I was out on the 7th hole, about 40 yards approximately. And recording that, I was at 80 dBs out there. You can't hold down. I've been a musician for years. I mean, I've got stuff on YouTube. I've played hundreds of gigs that way. And I'm telling you now, you can't hold down. I'm also a practicing profession in audiology, and you cannot hold down those 20 to 60 hertz of decibels. And somebody had asked about this room in here. They said, well, just as an example, this room here, your average is about 63 to 64 dBs. Right now, just my voice, I'm at 78 dBs. Your normal ambient sound in this room is ranging between 62 and 64. That's what your normal ambient sound is, without me flapping or anything. But now with my voice, I'm at just under 80 decibels, just with my stupid little voice. Imagine when you've got mics, you've got drums, you've got basses that are pushing out that bass, and that's what you really hear. It's just like a boombox comes by with the car, except the car doesn't keep going. It stops in front of your house. And I'm telling you, it's the best analogy I can give. I measured, because you asked about the humidor ambient sound, I measured 59 on a Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And I had 80 with two guys back in there, just two guys with amplification in the club. I was registering over 80 at 40 yards out. You can't control 5 decibels. Any common sense, you don't have to be a PhD in audiology, or you don't have to be a musician. You just have to use your common sense and your ears. And that's all you have to do to tell you that you cannot maintain 5 decibels over the normal ambient sound with a group. Can't do it. I'll challenge anyone on it. Look at the pictures there. Thank you.
Are we ready to bring this back to the commission, or is there anybody else that has any new information to present to us? Yeah, we now will call upon the owner or agent for rebuttal. You'll have 2 minutes.
Again, thank you, Chris Bohm, agent for the applicant. It's about sound management. That's why we're here. That's why we were here the last time. And we are going to make a concerted effort to manage the sound. We changed the protocol. We changed the days of use. We've reduced the area that can utilize this to the suite for the humidor. The hours of operation, again, are Friday and Saturday, only until 11 p.m. That's been changed. We have an enforceable method of control. We've heard all kinds of things about measuring sound, and I understand that. However, it has to be managed or it will be declared null and void. So this is an opportunity for the humidor to be a great neighbor and provide outdoor music and that unique experience for that area in West Wichita. And we're asking, try it. Give us the chance to show you what we can do. That's our request for today. It's enforceable, makes sense, it's fair and reasonable, and I would stand for any final questions.
Any questions from the commission? Thank you for your time. Bring it back to the commission now for discussion. Mr. Blick?
I don't see myself as an expert in audiology or anything, but I have seen that there is some new technology and old technology, that there's mobile screening and stuff like that, that somebody could help knock down some sound. That's not a motion to, it's just some recommendation for the applicants, maybe look at some mobile screening or something that could help knock down some of the sound. But I'd actually entertain a motion to approve with staff recommendation.
Second. Further, excuse me?
Just a clarification, Mr. Blick, were you making a motion or were you looking for one?
I was making a motion at the end. I was just giving a recommendation for the applicant to look into maybe some.
So we have a
screening.
motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Mader.
In regard to enforcement, it does have a really good drop dead clause in it, but how does that enforcement happen? Because as soon as this starts, I see a complaint every single night. And how are those going to be dealt with? Because I can't imagine that every single house isn't going to take turns. There's noise, they can hear it. What's the enforcement look like?
The enforcement, we're going to rely on the police department because we will not be out there. We're not a 24/7. So the police department would make the measurements and they would make cases. At least that would be the preferred way. The operation is entitled to due process. They'd be given an opportunity to correct it and to stop it. We would, before any revocation were to happen, I would want to obviously work with law, but I'm going to want to see some court cases where they've been found guilty. But ultimately, it could be revoked, so they could completely lose the ability to do it. But it's not going to be the first Friday night somebody calls us, hey, I recorded and I just know it's too loud, and I'm gonna call and say, well, I've just revoked your conditional use. And it would take also the concurrence of the planning director before I'm able to do that. But I will be relying very heavily on the police department. It means we'll have to work with the police department.
So the statement said, if we violate this, we'll be shut down. It's a process. It's a long process for that to happen. Okay.
It is a process. This is a property right. Absolutely.
We have a motion for approval per staff comments by Mr. Blick, second by Mr. Bill Johnson. No further comments. Mr. Fry will be abstaining from this. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. One nay. Two nays. Motion carries. I appreciate everybody's tolerance and time today. We had one more item on the agenda. Yeah, excuse me.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to call your attention back to subdivision 23-49.
Yes.
I've had an opportunity to discuss this with my deputy county counselor and take a look at the subdivision. I'd like to point the commission's attention to section 4304, which suggests that a failure of the MAPC to formally act, i.e. a lack of a motion to deny, would actually constitute an approval. This has been, staff has previously indicated this before. And then I would also point out that section 4-303 requires the MAPD to provide the applicant with any reasons for a denial in writing. So it's probably really prudent if the commission make a motion to deny. I would say that first to make a motion to reconsider the item and then have a formal motion to deny and provide a basis for it, since we need to provide written reasons for the denial to the applicant.
Okay, again, we're talking about which case is sub 2023-49.
Yes, sir. Item 2.6 today.
Right. So we had a motion for approval which failed. And you're suggesting now that we're having a motion for denial.
Yes, but we would probably need to do a motion to reconsider the item, and then we would need someone to make a motion to deny.
Make a motion to reconsider the item.
Second. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bill Johnson, second by Mr. Warren.
Okay, now I have a question. So now you're saying we need a motion to deny? Would that be done now or after we rehear this thing?
It can be done now. The public hearing has been closed, so reconsideration can be heard now, and assuming nothing changes in terms of what your positions are.
Okay, so would that be in the form of a substitute motion then?
It's already been considered. We're reconsidering. I don't think it's a substitute motion. We're gonna vote on the reconsideration. And I would suggest whoever makes the motion that this time it also include the drilling of 2 additional wells to be considered as part of the request. But, Mr. Blick.
Chair Dool, I would caution that we should not add that as a recommendation, since that would vary from what was considered actioned. And if we want to do this at
Reconsider not.
At this point, we've got a motion to reconsider in a second. I think we vote on that, and then we take up whatever motion to deny and what conditions you want.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Okay, let's take a voice vote.
All right, this is on the motion to reconsider the Indian Ridge subdivision. Duel.
I say aye.
Mater. Aye. Kay.
No.
Fry.
No.
Bill Johnson.
Yes.
Blick.
Yes.
Nix is absent. Kluntz. Warren.
Aye.
Joe Johnson is absent. Miles is absent. Zimbelman.
Yes.
Aldrich.
No.
Williams Bay.
No.
Motion passes. I have 7-4. 7-4.
Discussion.
So just for my own clarification, the reason we're doing this is so that we can substantiate why it was turned down in the first place, correct?
Just to follow the sub-D regs so that we can have a basis for denial in writing for the applicant, yes.
Does it have to be on exactly the same terms as the case that we denied?
We just voted to hear it again, reconsider.
Sir,
Yes.
with the motion to deny, there wouldn't be a need to make a recommendation to add the 2 wells because it's a denial. I'm thinking, is that?
That's true now, and I understand that at this point. If we're going to have a motion to deny, we can't include the 2 wells. That's not necessary. So it's going to be the same conditions that we considered before that we declined it on, and somebody that makes the motion is going to have to offer an explanation as to why they did that. Right?
Correct, sir.
Okay, I'm totally confused here. What we just did, and you said it was 7-4 aye, and that was to reconsider
Yes.
this, the same thing we just got done denying, or it failed? The approval failed?
We're reconsidering it, and we're going to seek a new motion. We may get it, we may not. Scott.
If I could, I think I can help clarify this. So what was discovered in the time since with this item, what happened was there was a motion to approve. The motion to approve failed. I indicated to you that therefore the application failed because there was no successful motion on it. Subsequent to that, legal counsel looked into the subdivision regulations, found out that I had given you wrong advice. In the subdivision regulations, they're a little bit unique in that they do require that if something is going to fail, it needs to be done on an approved motion. And subsequently, that there is a letter that needs to go out. So in writing, the planning department needs to communicate what the reason was for why the plat approval failed. And so that's what legal counsel has presented to you. Just now, the MAPC has approved a motion to reconsider because otherwise you would not be able to vote on the item. So you've taken it back up to reconsider it, which opens it up now for you to be available to take a motion on it and to vote.
Okay, I understand. I understand what you said. And I think maybe now we will seek a motion to deny and we'll vote on it. And if it passes, whoever made that motion is going to have to enter some context explaining why. Short of that, I don't know who would explain that. Yes.
What I would add in addition is that as part of the conversation, there was discussion about water availability. There seemed to be some reservation about approving the plat based on water availability. I don't know if I'm hearing it correctly, but if I am, one opportunity would be that the plat could be denied based on safety reasons due to the lack of evidence of water availability, which although water availability is not a criteria listed in the subdivision regulations, safety is always a caveat that provides an opportunity.
I think that's perfect. Now, Mr. Aldrich.
Yes, based on that, I would like to make a motion of denial. Again, based on several reasons, but the main reason I guess would be of safety concerns of the availability of quality and quantity of water.
Mr. Blick.
I just have a quick discussion. Since we opened this.
Yeah, we need a second. Okay. Mr. Mader seconds. Mr. Blick.
This question was going to come right after when we just voted and then we made the motion to vote on it, to open it and rehear it. So now since we've reheard this, it could be an approval or a denial that we could open it up to, right?
That's correct.
And then there would have to be a substitute motion if needed to be. Okay. All right. Sounds
We have a motion and a second. Does somebody want to, I'm not even going to bring that up.
I know. I just wanted to be clear that.
Yeah, we've cleared all the questions. Let's take a vote. Motion to deny per staff comments. And I think what Scott said was a good explanation of what should be included in the report to the county commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same sign?
Hey.
Can the nays raise their hand, please? Warren, Bill Johnson, Fry. That would make it, there are 11 people, so 8-3.
I got a question, Stan.
Yeah, Mr. Bill, yeah.
Since the county regulations don't require that we take on water, and we got into discussion to deny it over the water, will this set a precedent of all the plans that come in front of us from this day forward?
Technically, his motion was about the safety as it relates to the availability of water. So he
I'm
wasn't
just asking
specific on,
now.
yeah. Am I correct, Bob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I will look to you all to determine whether or not it will establish a precedent. My understanding is that the safety is always overrides and is always one of the primary concerns of the subdivision regulations. So whether or not you approve or do not approve another one in the future due to that. The other issue too is that I have heard concerns and questions about whether water availability should be considered. That has not risen to a level where it has been brought to the subdivision committee yet for consideration, but do know that that question has come to the planning director, and we're still determining that.
Thank you.
Let me ask you one question. You know, I asked the question when we was discussing it about the liability and saying, I'm selling this lot to this guy. I said, you got plenty of water. Finds out he doesn't have plenty of water. Now, who's responsible for that?
Sir, I think that would be up to the courts to determine that, quite frankly.
That's why I don't know why we got one. I just couldn't make a statement off the record.
It'll actually be whether a lawyer can come up with a good reason to add deep pockets as a defendant.
Okay, before we adjourn, the last item we had was a recognition of former MAPC members, and because of scheduling complex, we're going to defer that to hopefully the next meeting. With that, we're adjourned.